I'm Professor Theodore Whitmore, a seasoned expert with over 20 years of experience in the fields of psychology and personal development. Welcome to the Whitmore Way. Have you ever found yourself looking at someone with incredible confidence and thought, how do they do it? You know, the person who walks into a room and instantly commands attention, the one who tackles challenges without hesitation, the one who seems to always have their life together. And maybe, just maybe, you've wondered if there's something they know that you don't, or if there's some secret formula that gives them that unwavering belief in themselves, the confidence that seems out of reach for you. Let me tell you, I've been there too. As a professor with over 20 years in the field of psychology and personal development, I've worked with countless individuals who struggle with self-confidence. They're often bright, capable people with immense potential, but they're held back by the weight of their own doubts. And I'll admit, I was once one of them. I remember back when I was still starting out in my academic career, when I felt like an imposter. Despite the degrees, the research, the teaching, and everything that should have made me feel secure, I was constantly questioning myself. What if I wasn't good enough? What if I made a fool of myself in front of my colleagues? But then, something changed. I realized that self-confidence isn't something you're born with, nor is it some magical trait that only a select few people possess. It's built, it's developed over time. And that's what I want to share with you today. How to build your self-confidence by taking small, daily steps. You see, confidence is not an all-or-nothing trait. It's something you can cultivate, just like a muscle. And just like any muscle, it grows stronger the more you work on it. In fact, it's the little things, the tiny victories, the consistent steps forward that make all the difference. So, if you've ever felt stuck in that cycle of self-doubt, or if you've been wanting to improve your confidence but didn't know where to start, you're in the right place. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how small, consistent steps can lead to profound transformation in how you view yourself and your abilities. But before we dive in, if you're ready to take that first step towards a more confident version of yourself, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss out on new videos that are designed to empower you on your personal journey. Building self-confidence isn't like flipping a switch. It's not something that happens instantly. It's a process. And sometimes the idea of developing confidence feels overwhelming because we think it requires some huge transformation, like we need to be completely different people to finally start believing in ourselves. But what I want to share with you today is that confidence is not about being someone you're not. It's about embracing the person you already are and gradually building upon that foundation. Confidence is a skill, a muscle that gets stronger the more you work on it. You might be wondering, okay, if it's a skill, where do I start? Well, the first thing you need to realize is that building self-confidence doesn't come from one big moment of transformation, but rather from the small, consistent steps you take each and every day. Think about it. If you were trying to get in shape, you wouldn't expect to run a marathon after one training session. You take it one day at a time, building your stamina little by little until eventually you're able to run that race with ease. Confidence is just like that. It's a journey, not a destination. I'll tell you a story from my own life. I wasn't always as confident as I am today. In fact, when I first started my career, I was constantly doubting myself. Even though I had the qualifications, degrees from prestigious universities, years of research behind me, and experience teaching, it was still incredibly hard for me to feel like I belonged in the spaces I was in. I remember one particular moment early in my career that really made me question myself. I had been invited to give a keynote address at a major conference, and I remember standing backstage, preparing to go on, and thinking, what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? The fear of looking foolish, the fear of being judged, was almost paralyzing. But instead of letting those doubts take over, I chose to take a small step. I focused only on the first thing I had to do: walk on stage, say hello, and introduce myself. It might sound trivial, But that was the start of something much bigger. By focusing on just one small action, I was able to break the cycle of fear and overwhelm. And you know what? I didn't get through that first speech without stumbling a little. But I got through it. And after that, each sentence, each paragraph I spoke, became a small victory. I was no longer thinking about how I would appear to others or whether I was perfect. I was focused on delivering my message, and every time I did, I felt my confidence grow. That small action, that small step of simply starting, made all the difference. And that's the thing about confidence. It doesn't always have to be about feeling confident from the get-go. Sometimes you just need to take that first step. Confidence grows through action. When you take small, deliberate steps, you slowly build trust with yourself. Each time you do something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, you are teaching yourself that you can handle the challenges that come your way. And over time, these small victories add up, and you'll look back one day and realize how much progress you've made. Let's talk about how you can start taking these small steps today. The first thing to understand is that confidence isn't something you either have or don't have. It's not a binary trait. It's something that can be developed by repeatedly showing up for yourself. And one of the best ways to do that is to focus on consistency rather than perfection. You don't need to be flawless in every step you take. In fact, it's the imperfections that actually help build resilience, because each time we fail or fall short, we learn how to get back up. It's not the setbacks that define us. It's how we move forward in spite of them. One of the best ways to build small wins is by starting with something that feels manageable. Think about a situation in your life where you've been holding back. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, reaching out to someone you admire, or starting a new project that feels intimidating. Instead of focusing on the end result, just think about the very first step you can take toward that goal. It doesn't need to be huge. The key is to start. For example, let's say you want to improve your speaking skills because you know that speaking confidently in public is a big part of building your self-esteem. The idea of giving a full speech or presentation might seem too overwhelming, but what about this? Just practice saying a few lines in front of a mirror, or maybe you could rehearse a short speech in front of a trusted friend or colleague. These are small, manageable steps that gradually get you more comfortable, and before you know it, the bigger goals will feel much more achievable. Another critical thing to remember is that your mindset matters. Confidence isn't just about the actions you take, it's also about how you think about yourself. It's about the story you tell yourself. And for many of us, the story is often filled with self-doubt and insecurity. If you constantly tell yourself that you're not good enough, guess what? You'll start believing that. But if you start telling yourself that you are capable, that you can take those small steps, even when you don't feel 100% ready, your mindset will shift. This shift is crucial because it's what drives your actions. When you believe that you can do something, even if it's just one small thing, you start doing it. And every action reinforces that belief. At this point, I want to ask you to reflect for a moment. What's something you've been avoiding simply because it feels too big or too intimidating? What's one small step you can take today that will move you in the direction of that goal? Maybe it's writing down your thoughts, signing up for a class, or simply saying hello to someone new. It doesn't matter how small it seems. What matters is that you take the step. The most important thing here is to not wait for the perfect moment. Confidence is built in the process, not in waiting for conditions to be just right. Every time you take action, you're telling your brain, I'm capable. I can do this. And with each small step, you build the foundation for lasting self-confidence. Now that you've started taking those small steps toward building your self-confidence, let's talk about one of the most crucial elements of this journey: consistency. You've heard the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, your self-confidence won't be either. But here's the good news. Just because you don't see dramatic change right away doesn't mean you're not progressing. Progress, especially in terms of building lasting confidence, is cumulative. It's like a snowball effect. The more you roll it, the bigger and stronger it gets. Every single small step you take is building momentum, even if it doesn't feel that way at first. When I was in the process of developing my own confidence, one thing I realized early on was that success wasn't about having a flawless performance or getting everything right from the start. It was about showing up day in and day out and committing to the journey, even when I didn't feel like it. There were days when I doubted myself, when I wondered if I was doing enough, but I kept showing up. I kept making those small steps, and eventually those small steps started to add up to something substantial. Let's think about consistency for a moment. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get impatient. We live in an era of instant gratification, where we expect quick results. We see success stories all over social media, and it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, why aren't I there yet? Why haven't I reached that level of confidence and success? The reality, though, is that it's the everyday, consistent actions that lead to transformation. It's about putting in the work every day, even if the progress feels small or invisible. One of my students, let's call him David, came to me a few months ago, feeling discouraged. He was in a high-pressure job, and every time he had to speak in front of colleagues or clients, his nerves would get the best of him. He would freeze up, and after each presentation, he'd replay the situation over and over in his mind, beating himself up for his mistakes. David was stuck in a cycle of self-doubt, unable to break free from the grip of perfectionism. I sat down with him and shared the same advice I'm sharing with you today. David, I said, you don't have to be perfect. You just need to take consistent steps, even if it's just a few minutes a day of practicing your public speaking or preparing for meetings in a calm, structured way. That consistency will start to add up. And remember, the goal isn't to never make mistakes. The goal is to learn from them and keep moving forward. And that's exactly what he did. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment to speak up, he started practicing in smaller, less intimidating environments. He joined a local Toastmasters group where he could speak regularly in front of a supportive group. At first, he stumbled over his words and felt embarrassed, but the key thing was that he kept showing up. Each week, he got a little better, and over time, the nerves started to fade. By the end of a few months, David came to me and said, Professor Whitmore, I can't believe it. I actually enjoy speaking now. It doesn't feel as terrifying as it used to, and I'm starting to feel proud of myself for sticking with it. That's the power of consistency. It's not about making massive leaps every day. It's about showing up, even when it feels difficult, even when you don't feel like you're making huge progress. Every small action is a building block toward your goal, and with time, those actions compound into lasting transformation. So, how can you make consistency work for you? The answer is simple. Make a daily commitment to taking one small action that will push you forward, no matter how small it seems. If you want to become more confident, this could mean practicing one thing every day. Maybe it's starting a conversation with a stranger, signing up for a new class, or setting a small goal and achieving it. It doesn't have to be dramatic. What matters is that you're showing up every day, reinforcing that you are capable of making progress. But here's the thing. While consistency is a huge factor in building confidence, it's also important to acknowledge something else. Setbacks. Yes, setbacks will happen, and that's perfectly okay. In fact, setbacks are not only a part of the process, they're an essential part of the growth. Let me tell you a personal story. Early in my career, there was a moment when I was certain I'd failed. I had submitted a major research paper to a prestigious journal, and after months of work, I got the response: rejected. I was devastated. All the confidence I thought I had just crumbled in that moment. I remember thinking, how can I continue teaching others about confidence when I can't even get my own work published? But here's the thing about setbacks. They don't define you unless you let them. I could have let that rejection be the end of my story. I could have decided, I'm not good enough for this, and walked away. But instead, I used it as a stepping stone. I took some time to process the feedback from the journal and then made the necessary revisions. I resubmitted the paper, and this time, it was accepted. That rejection became a part of my journey, a necessary part of my growth. I learned from it, and I came back stronger. And that's exactly how you should view setbacks when they happen to you. They are not failures. They are opportunities to learn, to refine your approach, and to grow stronger. The most confident people you see today didn't get there by avoiding setbacks. They got there by pushing through them, by learning from them, and by keeping up their daily actions, even when the road got tough. Now, I know setbacks can feel discouraging, but don't let them stop you. Use them as fuel. If you fall down, get back up. If you make a mistake, learn from it. If you don't feel confident in a moment, remind yourself that it's part of the process. Confidence isn't about never failing. It's about bouncing back from failure, learning from it, and continuing forward. As you continue taking those small steps and staying consistent, you'll begin to see something amazing happen. Your self-confidence will start to build a momentum of its own. You won't have to force yourself to believe in yourself. It will become a natural part of who you are. And that's because consistency, combined with learning from setbacks, will create a cycle of growth, self-trust, and ultimately unshakable confidence. Before we move on, I want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're finding this helpful. Your support is so important, and it helps me continue bringing you these insights that can make a difference in your life. By now, you've learned the importance of starting small and focusing on consistency. You've also realized that setbacks are an inevitable part of the process, and rather than letting them discourage you, you will start using them as opportunities to learn, grow, and improve. But here's the thing. Building confidence is not something that happens once and is then complete. Confidence is an ongoing journey, a lifelong commitment to showing up for yourself even when the path gets tough. The good news is, once you build that foundation of confidence, it becomes easier and more natural to keep going. Confidence starts to flow into other areas of your life. Maybe you find yourself speaking up more at work or trying new things without the fear of failure holding you back. Perhaps you start setting bigger goals, knowing you're capable of achieving them because you've proven it to yourself through consistent action. But just as you can grow your confidence, it can also fluctuate. Life has a way of throwing curveballs at us, and sometimes our confidence will dip. And that's okay. I'll tell you something important. Self-confidence is not about being perfect all the time. It's not about being flawless in every situation. In fact, I'd argue that the more you embrace your imperfections, the more confident you become. Let me give you an example from my own life. When I first started public speaking and giving lectures to large audiences, I would often find myself worrying about how I appeared to others, whether I was speaking too fast, whether people were judging me, or whether I had said something wrong. Over time, though, I realized something powerful. The audience doesn't expect perfection. They expect authenticity. I'm not there to give a perfect performance. I'm there to share knowledge, to offer value, and to be real with them. And the more I embraced that mindset, the more I started to feel comfortable in my own skin, both as a speaker and as a person. Confidence isn't about being perfect. It's about being authentic, owning who you are, and not apologizing for it. Now, let's talk about how to keep your confidence growing long term. Because here's the truth. Once you've started building confidence, it's essential to continue nourishing it, or it can fade over time. Just like any skill or habit, if you don't actively practice it, it can start to diminish. So, how do you sustain the confidence you've worked so hard to build? First, keep setting small goals. Confidence thrives on achievement, and the best way to continue that momentum is by constantly giving yourself small, achievable goals. These goals don't have to be monumental. They could be as simple as starting your day with a positive affirmation or committing to a 10-minute workout. Or maybe it's sharing a thought in a meeting that you might have otherwise kept to yourself. Each small goal you accomplish builds your sense of self-worth and reinforces your belief in your ability to succeed. But let's be real. You're going to have bad days. There will be times when you face setbacks, when you feel like giving up, or when you question yourself. This is completely normal. Confidence isn't about being immune to self-doubt. It's about learning how to move through those moments and not letting them define you. When those tough moments arise, take a step back and remind yourself how far you've come. Look at the progress you've made, no matter how small. Reflect on the times when you've overcome challenges and give yourself credit for getting through them. You've been building resilience all along, and that strength will carry you through future struggles. A key part of sustaining your confidence is also about surrounding yourself with positivity. Who you spend time with and what you expose yourself to matters. If you're constantly around people who bring you down or remind you of your insecurities, it's going to be harder to maintain a positive mindset. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who uplift you, who believe in your potential, and who encourage you to keep growing, your confidence will have fertile ground to thrive. So, nurture your relationships with those who support you, and don't be afraid to distance yourself from those who drain your energy or contribute to your self-doubt. Another powerful tool to sustain your confidence is self-compassion. This is a practice that I can't emphasize enough. We can be so hard on ourselves when we don't meet our own expectations or when we slip up and make mistakes. But the key to long-term confidence is being kind to yourself during those moments. When you fail, when you fall short, or when things don't go as planned, show yourself the same compassion you would show a close friend. Tell yourself, it's okay, this is part of the process. I'll learn from this, and I'll keep going. And here's another powerful tip. Constantly celebrate your progress. You don't have to wait for a big milestone to recognize your growth. Take time to celebrate each small victory. When you speak up in a meeting, when you finish a challenging task, when you take the time to invest in your personal growth, celebrate it. Each victory, no matter how small, is a testament to your commitment to yourself. Give yourself credit. Acknowledge how far you've come. Over time, this reinforces a positive self-image, and it serves as a reminder of the strength and ability you possess. Remember, confidence is not about reaching a finish line. It's about continuing the journey. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of every step, every challenge, and every victory. You are capable of achieving far more than you give yourself credit for. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. And with every step, every action, and every moment you show up for yourself, you're reinforcing the truth that you are enough, just as you are. Before I wrap up, I want to remind you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're finding this content helpful. Your engagement helps me continue creating videos that empower and inspire you on your journey toward personal growth. So, to summarize everything we've talked about today, building self-confidence starts with taking small steps every single day. By focusing on consistency, learning from setbacks, and showing up for yourself even when it feels hard, you begin to cultivate a confidence that will carry you through life's challenges. And remember, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. Embrace who you are and trust that the journey itself is what will ultimately lead you to the self-confidence you're seeking. Thank you for joining me today, and I can't wait to see how you continue to grow and thrive on this incredible journey.